If you ever plan on buying products directly from China, I mean direct to the source, like not via a website, you should avoid these 5 mistakes that I have made previously so I can save you either a lot of time or a lot of money. For those that are new to this channel, my name is Michael. I help businesses and individuals source goods from China to make it as painless as possible to save you time and money. If you're interested in these tips, consider subscribing to this channel for more tips. Now, the first mistake people make when they're directly buying from China is that they don't inspect the products before they leave the country. Actually, a lot of these direct to supplier solutions like 168 and Taobao, they may not have any experience when it comes to the shipping. So they may try and trick you if they know that the product is going overseas, because there is a time limit to solve problems in China. So if you buy something on a platform, let's just say Taobao, there's usually a 7-day time limit. And if you don't deal with the problem by then, and you just wait until the products arrive at your home country, wherever that is, you're gonna have problems and you're probably gonna lose a lot of money. There was a case where someone ordered goods for Christmas. They ordered like a bunch of gnomes and Christmas decorations, and they ordered it back in like October, and they sent it via sea freight, which took them about 30 days. When they finally received the goods, they saw that they were all Easter supplies because they were out of season and the supplier knew they were going overseas and they needed to get rid of the stock, and they ended up getting scammed. It's unfortunate. Don't assume that always when you're sourcing direct from China that the supplier will have their best intentions in hand when it comes to sourcing these goods, and they may try and trick you for a quick buck. To avoid this kind of situation, you can simply hire a shipping agent that actually does inspections, or if you're dealing with more high value items, have a third-party inspection agency check the products, whether they charge by man days or etc., and then ship it after they have been checked for accuracy. The second mistake that a lot of people fall for is not checking your suppliers before you actually pay them directly. So sometimes suppliers are trying to get sneaky and they say they have a shop on 168 or Taobao, and they say, hey, if you pay me direct via WeChat or Alipay, I'll give you a 10% discount, which is quite reasonable because sometimes Taobao 168 charges the supplier per transaction. So you can see a little bit off the discounted price. Makes a little bit of sense, but be aware, if you don't do the proper research, you have no idea if their company is undergoing a bankruptcy. You have no idea where their company is established in China. So if they were to scam you after you pay them, you have no protections. It's actually quite common for suppliers to ask for these discounts to go off the platform when they're in a very tough financial situation. For example, on the verge of bankruptcy, they may be like, hey, I'll give you a discount for your next order. We've been doing business for quite a while. Just pay me offline. And then that money is no longer in escrow when you pay them, and you're screwed. So avoid that at all costs. I wouldn't say there's a way to completely avoid this from happening to you, but there's some measures you can take in place to make your experience better. One is getting the details of the actual owner of the company, their ID card, their phone number, where they live, their closest police station, where they operate their business, so that you can make a case if it's a very big case and you can attack it civilly, and then you can go ahead and hire a lawyer to help you get your money back. It doesn't hurt to also check certified platforms that can tell you the health of a company, that if it's still running or if it's undergoing some kind of legal issues. There are platforms online like Tianyecha that can actually do this and tell you the overall standing of the company before you go forward with this. So you don't want to be doing business with a person that's undergoing bankruptcy. The third mistake that people make when directly sourcing from China is assuming that the supplier knows anything about international markets. You have to realize that, especially if those suppliers that aren't directly listed on Alibaba or AliExpress, they heavily rely on those platforms to get customers. So it's essentially a customer acquisition channel just to fulfill orders and go ahead and get a quota to be done each month. Actually, once some of these factories find 1 or 2 stable, long-term, bulk ordering customers, then they don't feel like there's a strong need to do marketing or sales for the actual product, and they get comfortable. What does that mean? That if you ask them to give you insights about your market, because you've seen that they sold your products in many countries or maybe your country, they may not know anything about the customer base or what the customer is actually looking for, and don't be surprised with that. Now, if they are listed on Alibaba or AliExpress, they may have more experience because that's essentially more in the ballpark of international business, and you can actually filter down the options on these platforms with certain certifications to make sure, okay, they've actually sold this product overseas and they have an idea what customers want. You may also want to filter some results if you're using like 168 or Taobao. If they sold these items on eBay Amazon, Wish, that's also a telltale sign that they have some experience in the national market. But usually when you're going direct to the supplier or to the factory, they're not going to know anything about your market. So you're going to need to be the brains of the operation on how to actually market the product to the end customer of your country. Okay, another big mistake is mistake number 4 is assuming that international shipping costs are included in the price. Now there are exceptions like AliExpress with their e-packets, etc. Sometimes they do have shipping included in their pricing, but they like to intrigue you with a cheap product price and then they hit you with the international shipping. In particular, Alibaba usually pay for shipping after you pay for the product, which is a completely different service with a completely different freight forwarder or shipping agent. So you have to be very careful when you're doing the calculations for your bottom line to also include international shipping costs as close as you can, because sometimes you won't be able to calculate it up front, especially if you're dealing with a factory that only ships within Chinese addresses. They have no idea what the cost is overseas. Even though they may know the dimensions and the weight, they don't know how it works with like paying import tariffs, clearing customs, and all that paperwork that's needed to get your product overseas. And if they have no overseas exporting license, then they can't even help you anyways. A lot of the times these companies have an incentive to ship overseas themselves where they get a tax break from the Chinese government. But if you're dealing with a factory that only ships within Chinese addresses directly, good luck, and they're probably not going to have international shipping. A lot of the times the shipping is even more expensive than the product itself. It's how they get to entice you. It's a way for these suppliers to entice you, whether using 1688, or you may even need like a professional shipping agent like what we provide with our services to help you ship the products overseas. But if you're using a platform like Alibaba, what they get you is they put the product price super low and they're like, bam, this doesn't include international shipping. They're gonna get you with the international shipping price. So don't assume that the final price you see on the website also includes the shipping cost to your home country. And the 5th mistake that you should avoid, which is probably my favorite mistake that I hear too many times advertised by companies, is that this process can be fully automated. And I'm gonna call BS on that. So if you're buying directly from China, unless you're using platforms like AliExpress that has API integrations with Shopify, WooCommerce, you can somewhat automate that because it's less regulated how you purchase a product. However, if you're going to purchase products on 1688, Taobao, Pinduoduo, usually that requires some kind of a Chinese presence, whether it's a Chinese company, a Chinese bank account, something you can't get as a foreigner. Whereas on AliExpress, you can just use your Visa, MasterCard. It's not the case when it comes to 1688 and Taobao. So right there, you're gonna have an issue because you probably don't have a Chinese bank account and you can't get one as a tourist without going through a lot of hoops. It's possible, but it's quite difficult. You have to physically be in China to get the bank account, and then it won't work out for you at the end. So when they say this can be completely automated, look, I've been doing this business for like 5 years. I haven't even automated it yet. I'm pretty close, but it requires heavy investment on investing into integration that costs a lot of money, and sometimes you don't even qualify for the integration. If you want to use a 1688 API interface, the minimum threshold to qualify is at least 8 million RMB annual revenue. And if you can't reach that, they're going to be like, kick rocks. We don't care about your business. Go ahead and do that. So to wrap up the 5 biggest mistakes people make when directly sourcing from China, the first is that they don't check the product before it ships overseas. The second is that they're not properly vetting the supplier before they're paying them directly to their bank account, Alipay or WeChat. The third is that they assume that the supplier understands international markets. The fourth is people thinking that international shipping costs are included in the final price that they give you for the product. And the fifth is thinking that you can completely automate this without a huge investment in either your time or your money. Now, if you want to know how to find suppliers direct on 1688 for any product you see on the street or want to take a photo of, or you have an idea on what product you want to resell in your country, or maybe make a product from scratch, check out this video that goes into detail on how to find the supplier on 1688.